Hey guys, welcome back. In the last session, we have worked on the notification service. In the notification service, we have created a method called send mail notification, which will be accepting the notification and we will be using this notification and we will be sending the email to the end user. Okay. So now the thing is, who is calling this method? Who is calling this notification service send mail notification method? So from where we are calling it? Okay. So we are getting called by the notification service is invoked by the transaction service whenever there is a transaction is happening. Okay, once the transaction is completed, okay, so we have to initiate the notifications, we have to invoke the notification service. Okay, so now come to the transaction controller. Here, after completing the notification service, here I need to make a call to the notification service. Okay, so now there is a change in the architecture. So before, I was telling that like notification transaction service is like making a call to the notification service, and notification service will be having a REST API. Okay, but here I am not exposing any REST API. What I will do is I will be building this notification service. I will be building this notification service. I will be adding this notification service details to the transaction service. To the transaction service, which means that in form.xml file, I'll be adding the notification service details as well. And one more change is that I am directly adding the, mail dependencies as well. Okay, so in the transaction service, what I'm adding two dependencies. One is the notification service dependency, the other one is the starter mail dependency as well. So these are the two dependencies which I am adding. Now let's come back to the transaction controller. In the transaction controller, what I'm doing is I'll be making a call, right? I'll write over here invoking notification service by using a transaction. I'll be creating a utility class. The utility class is a transaction utility class. So in this utility class only, we will be writing a methods to invoke the account service method. We will be writing a method to invoke the account service, to invoke the customer service. Okay, once we get the data from the account service and customer service, we will be using that data in our transaction utility class, and we will be constructing the notification. We will be constructing the notification. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, let's do it. Let first, what I'll do is I'll be creating the transaction utility class. Let's copy this one. Let me go to the transaction services. In the transaction services, there is a utils package. If you didn't see any util package, create a util package. Right click on the util package, create a Java class, and give the class name as a transaction utility. Transaction utility is created. Now I'll be annotating this class with the component so that Spring Boot can able to read this class whenever I need it. I can get the object of transaction utility class by using the auto white feature. Okay, so we have created transaction utility and we have added a annotation on top of the transaction utility. Now the real thing, we need to write a method. Okay, we need to write a method to handle to send mail. Okay, send mail is a method we will be calling, and this mail method which will be taking the transaction, it will be taking the transaction, it will be taking the transaction details. See, if you want to send the if you like while you're sending the mail to the end user, so you'll be having the transaction details with you, and you should be having the account details, you should be having the customer details as well. So how we will be getting the transaction details? From the controller we will be getting the transaction details. I'll be changing this transfer funds return type to transaction. Let me go back to the transfer funds. So here we were returning the string. Okay, so we were returning the string. No, I don't want to return the string, I want to return transaction only. I want to return transaction only. What is the type of transaction? Transaction type is what? Transaction. Let's copy this one. Let's paste it over here. It's fine. That's simple. Okay. So only the change what we are doing for the transfer fund methods, we are returning the transaction. Okay, fine. So let's come back to the transaction controller now. So now the transaction controller is expecting the transaction. Sorry, small r. It's a transaction. Okay, so I'll say transaction. If transaction is not null, then transaction object is not equals to null. then only we are coming inside and we are invoking the notification service. If the transaction is not null, we can assume that transaction is getting succeeded and we are invoking the notification service. That's what we are going to do now. So now here, from here, I'll be calling the transaction util. Now to call the transaction util, you need to inject the transaction util in your transaction controller class, right? So let me inject. So I'll say transaction utility, transaction utility semicolon, and I'll be using auto wire so that the transaction, so that the Spring Boot will be creating the object for transaction utility and it will be giving back to me. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll be calling the method of transaction utility. Transaction utility dot send, transaction utility dot send mail. Okay, this send mail is a non-stat. It is send mail is not a public method actually. Let me make this as a public actually. As of now, let me make this as a public void. Okay, so we will be from the transaction controller, we will be sending the transaction details. So we got the transaction details. Okay, so let's say success over here. Let me give the message as transaction successful. Okay, that's fine. Transaction is successful. If any error, we'll say that transaction is failed. Transaction failed. Transaction is failed. Fine. So now let's come back to the send email method. Let's go to the send email method of transaction utility. Here the real works will come actually. So we will be discussing this send mail method of transaction utility in the next session. Okay. So I don't want to keep you more. I don't want, sorry. We will be discussing the next session. I don't want you uh, stretch this video so that I'll be stopping over here only. Okay. So we'll be seeing in the next video. Thank you.